Hi there, welcome to part 2 of this presentation. In this part I will show you how to configure the loadmaster for Exchange Server 2010. Before we start configuring the loadmaster, we have to make sure that the Exchange server is properly configured, that the internal URLs and the external URLs are configured and resolvable. For example, when we look at the web services virtual directory, we have to make sure that both the internal URL and the external URL are set appropriately and resolvable. The OWA virtual directory, for example, same way. The external URL makes sense, but also the internal URL have to be set. By default it's set to the FQDN of the Exchange server, but Microsoft recommends to use a split DNS and use the same FQDN both internally as well as externally. After we have configured that, we can go to the loadmaster itself and we log on using the browser. When we hit the loadmaster main page, we see the main menu in the left hand. We have the home, the virtual services, the real servers, rules, certificates and some system configuration. And in the system configuration it's possible to configure the loadmaster itself. So you can configure the interfaces, local DNS configuration, access control, logging options, system administration. You can reboot the server, set date and time. And there are some miscellaneous options, for example, for transparency, high availability and stuff. But we want to configure the loadmaster for Exchange 2010. So as mentioned in my previous presentation, we have to configure a virtual service. And a virtual service has an FQDN and an IP address. And in this case it's webmail exchangelabs.nl, and we're going to configure it with an IP address. We go to virtual services and we click on add new. We enter the IP address, the port, which is SSL, so it's 443. We give it a name, OWA 2010. We are not using a template at this moment and we say OK, add this virtual service. And at this point we have created the virtual service or the VIP. It's not configured, so we have to do that manually right now. So we go to the standard options and we can configure transparency. We have to configure persistence options and we say okay, it's super HTTP in this case. The scheduling method, we have various options available. We select round robin here. We set the timeout to 900. And important, we are going to use server net or source net, so we have to enable that as well. We browse down a bit and we are going to enable SSL offloading. So when SSL offloading, the SSL stream is terminated at the client or at the loadmaster. So we have to enable the certificate here. We enable it and we have to add the certificate. And this is a bit of a difficult user interface, but we give the certificate a name. So Exchange Cert, for example, and we say import certificate. Import certificate, and now we can import the actual certificate. So it's located here in my downloads directory. We enter the passphrase and we say enter, okay, and it's successfully installed. Now it's installed, so the certificate is on the loadmaster and we are going to connect it to the VIP. And we say okay, this is the one. And we add the certificate to the virtual service. We go back to the virtual service and we see okay, it's configured, it's down at this moment, which makes sense because we don't have any real service configured yet. So again, we click on modify, we browse down and we're going to the real service part. One of the stuff the loadmaster does is checking if the service is actually available. It's service aware. So it's checking on the HTTP service on the Exchange servers and it's checking on port 80 and it's actually checking, we have to browse down again, the /OWA virtual directory. We say set URL. And now we can add the actual servers. 32, that's server 1. This is server 2. It's added, and now when we check the service we see okay, the VIP is up and running, it's green, it has 2 servers configured and it's working fine at this moment. So when we go to our browser, webmail.exchangelabs.nl/01, maybe HTTPS works better. Demo at exchangelabs.nl. I'm going to type in the complex password, which is not past one word, by the way. Now you see it's working fine and it's using the loadmaster at this moment. How do you know which server you are connected to? There's this question mark here and we select about and we see, okay, we are connected to Exchange Server 1 at this point. So, which is fine. We log out, we close this one, and right now we are going to open another browser session. Webmail demo at exchangelabs.nl. Complex password again, and we'll see we are logged on again. We go to the question mark about, ta-da, we are connected to Exchange Server 2. So we know it is working. We browse, close this one again. We go back to the loadmaster. And here we can say statistics. And we see the statistics of the loadmaster. And we can see the real service and we see, okay, both machines actually have had connections the last couple of minutes. Which makes sense because that was me. Now, as you have seen, we have configured everything manually. So that's fine for one service, but when you have to create several servers, it makes sense to use a template. Again, we are going to use or to create a new one, 240 port 443 OWA 2010, and I have downloaded a couple of templates: Exchange HTTPS, HTTPS offloaded, Exchange MAPI and SMTP. We are going to select HTTPS offloaded, add this virtual service, and right now you will see that all the stuff we configured manually is now entered by the template. No certificates. Let's see, to configure the certificate here. Again, we go back. What you see happening here, that's also creating a redirect rule. So when you access the loadmaster on port 80, it's going to automatically redirect you to the service on 443. We go back here, it's configured, we add the service 32. And the other one, add this real server. We're going to check and it's up and running again. And when we go to the browser again, HTTPS demo at exchangelabs.nl. We can do a check here, say about, and we are connected to server 1. Sign out again. We open Internet Explorer. /OWA NL. Now, if all went well, we should be connected to server 2. We are. If you want to see cookie information, you go to the browser and you press F12 and it will show the developer information. You can go to cache and say, okay, view cookie information. And here you see the cookie information created by both Exchange as well as the loadmaster. Here is, for example, the user contact, which is the cookie for or created by the Exchange server. We go back to the server and again we can say statistics, real server, and we see, okay, they're up and running again. So it certainly makes sense to use templates to create your VIPs or virtual services. Okay, so far my presentation about the loadmaster. I hope you enjoyed it, got some useful information. Thank you very much.